Yeah. Yeah. Have family members come up. Is everybody set? Good morning. I'm attorney Ben Crump, and along with attorney Jeff Goodman from Slots Law Firm, who is a recognized expert in the field dealing with bridge collapses and collapsed buildings all across America and the world. I think it's safe to say the Sachs Law Firm is probably the #1 firm that people call when they want to understand the intricacy and the details of what really happened. And that's why I'm honored to work with Attorney Goodman today. Also, he has a couple of his colleagues with him, Attorney Sam Dardick and Attorney Jordan Howell, who have been working with our litigation directors, Attorney Natalie Jackson and Attorney Paul Greinke. And we have our Atlanta Managing Director, Attorney Lisa Park, who's based here in Georgia. So it's a whole team of lawyers because this is an important case for many reasons. For many reasons. For all Georgians who trust that the bridges, the docks, the support systems are going to keep them secure, that they won't have to face tragedies like these families have had to face. It gets emotional because I'm remembering talking to so many of them about what happened when the Sapelo Island Gateway dock collapsed and how they were in the water and they thought that this was the end for them and how they struggled to just try to get a breath and how loved ones who they tried desperately to save could not be saved. And that's what this is about today. We have families of our clients. We represent 4 of the decedents who lost their lives 8 months ago. We represent Jacqueline Carter. We have their pictures here. We represent Cynthia Gibbs. We represent Carlotta McIntosh. And we represent Isaiah Thomas. Their families are all still heartbroken. They're still having nightmares constantly about that day. With October 23rd, Regina, when October 19th, when they went in the water. They are still having nightmares about that day. And so we have Miss Regina Hall, who you will hear from. It's going to be very emotional because they're still living this. They're not like Lisa and Jeff. They didn't go to law school to be trained to deal with situations like this. This is real for her. I mean, her uncle, he lived with them. He was a vital part of their family. And the fact that they were in that water together, holding on, she would tell you the story in graphic detail as why we're here today. What she says is far more important than what I say, what Attorney Goodman says, because she is telling you why the safety rules matter. And when people put profit over safety, you have the traumatic loss like she and her cousins Jeff Thomas had, Michael Winston. Isaiah was their father. We also have her mother here with us, Katrina Alexander, who was the sister of Isaiah Thomas. We also have present with us Mr. Alexander Henderson, who lives on Sapelo Island and who rescued many of them. I think it's safe to say without his help, we would probably be looking at more than 7 people dead. So I want to say thank you and give you a round of applause, Mr. Henderson. Where you at? It's me standing in the back. And so you will hear from him and his heroic efforts. And he knows all the history about Sapelo Island. And I'm so grateful he's here to educate us all beyond the lawsuit. We also have Miss Elena Johnson, the daughter of William Johnson, who also died, and Miss Briannica Talley, who's the niece of William Johnson. And we have Nathaniel Hicks, who's the son of Joanne Ross, who you also hear from. So I say all that to say to give them their proper introductions. But the biggest thing while we're filing this multi-million-dollar lawsuit is because this tragedy was totally preventable. Let me say that again. These 7 people did not have to die on the Sapelo Island gangway dock if people would have put safety over money. That's what this is about. What was supposed to be such a celebratory occasion of cultural pride. The Gullah Geechee Islands and the African culture that is represented on that island is unique to any other thing in America. That's why people go and visit annually, and that's what that day was. It was supposed to be a celebration of black pride, but it became a day of great black loss of humanity and life. And so we're filing this lawsuit to speak to that tragedy, to say that we won't let them sweep it under the rug, that we won't let them say that these black people were insignificant, that we won't let them say that these black senior citizens were irrelevant, that we won't let them say that their lives didn't matter. I wonder, honestly, if this case would have gotten more attention if it were all elderly white people. In this day and time in America, we have to ask those questions, unfortunately. 6 of the 7 people who died were African American. And so we're dealing with, yet again, trying to remind people that black tears are just as valuable as white tears. That black loss of life is the same as any other loss of life. And the reason this case is worth millions of dollars is to send the message, that we value all life, whether black, white, brown, or red. It's about equal justice under the law. And so this lawsuit goes into great details about what happened and how it should have been prevented. It goes without saying that our experts painstakingly took every part of that gangway and they did a re-engineering of it. They reconstructed the tragedy, and we know what all of the shortcomings and shortcuts that led to this tragedy. And so we want these companies to do the right thing. Don't make these families continue to have to suffer over and over again just to get simple justice. Simple justice. We ain't asking for anything extraordinary. We're asking for the same thing that anybody else would ask for if that was their mama or their daddy who died this tragic death. That's all we're asking for. I mean, drowning deaths are very horrific deaths, especially when people are reaching out for you and you see them going down and you realize that this watery grave is going to be their last time that they took a breath on this earth. That's why this lawsuit is so important. With that, I am proud to introduce you to my co-counsel, Attorney Jeff Goodman, who's going to talk about the merits of this very important lawsuit filed here today in the state of Georgia on these hallowed grounds at the Martin Luther King Center. Attorney Goodman.
Thank you, Attorney Crump, and thank you everyone for being here today. My name is Jeff Goodman, and I'm going to walk through some of the details from today's filing. Today's filing was a step towards justice for the victims and a step towards accountability for the design, engineering, and construction firms that caused this tragedy. Each and every day, we all count on design, engineering, and construction firms to keep us safe. We count on them to make sure our buildings don't crumble, our bridges don't collapse, our staircases don't give way. To make this gangway safe, simple things needed to be done. To make this gangway safe, it needed to be designed properly. It needed to be engineered, and it needed to be constructed according to basic standards. To make this gangway safe, there was a requirement, a basic engineering requirement, that it needs to hold 100 pounds per square foot. That's engineering 101. This gangway was designed to hold less than 1/3 of that. Attorney Crump spoke about how we've had experts take apart the gangway, reconstruct the gangway, model the gangway, and what that has proven with clarity is that this gangway was capable of supporting less than 1/3 of what it needed to. This tragedy was not just preventable, it was inevitable. It wasn't a matter of if this gangway would collapse, it was a matter of when this gangway would collapse. And the failures happened at the design level, at the engineering level, and at the construction level. And that is why the lawsuit that has been filed seeks to hold those design, engineering, and construction professionals accountable for this senseless and unnecessary loss of life. So thank you all for being here today. I'm happy to walk through any questions in a few moments after some of the victims talk about some of the more details of the complaint. Thank you.
Before you step away, can you spell first, last name, and title, and for everyone else?
We're going to do it at the end. Yeah. Only the family members who talk. We don't want to keep them waiting. They've been through enough. Thank you so much, Attorney Goodman. The individuals who we have sued, specifically Attorney Grinke, said, let's make sure we let you all know that we will provide you with the lawsuit after the press conference. But the lawsuit names Stevens and Wilkerson, the project architect, Centennial Contractors Enterprises, the general contractor, as well as EMC Engineering Services, the civil marine engineering consultant, and Crescent Equipment Company doing business as Crescent Marine Access, the gangway fabricator, as the defendants. This suit alleges a wide range of professional negligence and engineering failures that led to the collapse, and it's ongoing. There may be other defendants. We're going to let the evidence lead us. We're going to let the evidence, because we would imagine some people are going to say they're more culpable than me. And so we may glean other important things as we go through this litigation. And that was very important to talk about the technical stuff. But this tragic, fatal disaster is not technical. It's emotional and real. It's not just technical. It is heart-wrenchingly painful. You're going to hear now from Miss Regina Hall, who was in the water. Oh, I'm sorry, Miss Regina Brinson, who was in the water with her family members, to tell you, to paint a picture for you, really how it was and why we're here. Again, it's emotional. So Regina, if you could tell them about that day.
Good morning. My name is Regina Brinson. First of all, I just would like to thank God, number one, for being here and being able to stand here today, because this has not been easy. October the 19th pretty much is, to me, it's just like today. The pain doesn't get any easier whatsoever. To attend a festival with family, my mom, my cousins, and very good friends that ended up in tragedy like this is it's just something that's unbelievable. And I keep asking, I keep saying, please God, wake me up from this bad dream that I'm having. But in reality, it's not a dream, it's real. To leave a festival, heading back to the ferry, trying to board the ferry, and get in the middle of the gangway, and you're standing there with Miss Collada, which this beautiful soul right here, I had her on a walker, and my uncle was assisting me with Miss Collada. I was holding on to her walker while we were standing in the middle of the gangway, and all of a sudden I heard a crack. And I was like, oh my God, what's happening? What's happening? And before I knew it, Miss Collada shot down in the river. It's just like she dove off a diving board. I could see her whole body and her walker go underwater. The first half of the gangway, that first section, the whole thing collapsed. I was at the split. That crack went straight across in front of my feet. So I felt like in slow motion. The part that I was on when we fell, it fell slow and it was going down, and it pretty much curved and landed back on the dock. And I was saying to myself, once I hit the water, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. Soon as I hit the water, it's like the currents were so rough and bad. The currents just instantly just picked me up. And I'm just floating down the river. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm in the middle of a river. And as I was floating down the river, I looked to my left and I saw my uncle. And I called out to him and I said, Uncle Bubba, I said, grab my hand. He grabbed my hand, but he also grabbed me right here. And he kept pulling me and pulling me and pulling me under the water. And I said to myself underwater, I said, oh my God, I'm getting ready to die. And God spoke to me so clearly. And God said, no, you have to release your uncle. I'm underwater peeling finger by finger by finger off my shirt, having to release my uncle to just be able to surface back up to the top of the water. When I floated back up to the top, he floated by me, and then I was like, oh my God, what did I do? What did I do for releasing my uncle? I felt so bad, like, why did I release my uncle? But at the time, that's what God told me to do, and that's the only thing I knew to do was to release him. And then I said, okay, God, I release my uncle now. I still have to get to land. Land was not close to me at all, and I can't swim. But I knew enough to possibly save my life, and that's what I did. I knew that, number one, keep my head above water. Number one, try to stay calm and don't burn up my energy. And number two, just doggy paddle. And that's what I did. And when I made it to the edge, I just collapsed. I was mentally, emotionally, physically just drained, just laying on the sand, face down. This has not been easy for me at all. Not at all, whatsoever. Nightmares, talking to therapists, having to take medication to help me sleep. This has not been easy for me or any of my family members. My mom, she was there, she experienced the whole disaster, what happened. I was nowhere near her, none whatsoever. So in reality, she didn't know if me or my uncle or her good friend was dead or alive for hours, because I had floated down the river just laying on the sand. So this has not been easy for me or any of my family members whatsoever. So I just ask for continued prayer to get us through this on a daily basis. God is my source and has given me strength, Lord, to make it day by day. And I am so ever thankful for him to give me a second chance in life. I am so thankful.
Amen. Thank you, Regina. No, and I want to say again publicly, Regina, what we continue to say privately to you. It was not your fault for your uncle's death. It was the people who cut corners and building the gangway dock collapse. You never should have been put in that position to have to try to save your uncle and save your life. It is not your fault, dear. I want you to know that. We can't say that enough. It is not your fault for your uncle or Miss Collada, who I know was like a family member also.
Yes.
And before you leave, I just want to have your mother say a word about how it was in the minutes and hours after they desperately were searching and could not find you and her brother and her dear friend Collada. Miss Katrina.
Hello, everyone. That particular day, we all went to have fun, October the 19th, real early that morning, and we arrived pretty early. And on the way back, my friend Annette Hill and I had just stepped off the gangway. It could have been she and I also. We didn't hear anything break. We just heard screaming. People were just hollering. And when I turned around, I was just, what am I seeing? I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was like I was in shock for a second. I stood there. I saw the people clinging to the deck, trying to hold on and crying and screaming. And finally it dawned on me, where's Regina? Where's Regina? And I kept looking to see if she would wave at me from afar over on the other side of the other deck on the other side, and we didn't see Regina, and we kept looking and looking. No Regina. And I said, oh my God, oh my God. Oh my God. Please, please, God. I pleaded with him for about 2 hours. Save Regina, save Regina.
My Lord.
And then he spoke to me and he said, what about your brother? Just like that, out of the day. He said, what about your brother? What about Gullah? I said, oh my God, please forgive me. Please, please forgive me. I forgot about them. Please forgive me, Lord. Please save them all. Save everybody. Please. He'll speak to you if you listen. And he spoke to me because at a moment I could only think about my child. He was my brother and I loved him dearly. And I loved Kalala dearly, but the first thing came was she was a part of me. And for 2 hours, I stood crying, weeping. Please, God, please, please save Regina, Isaiah, and all the rest. Please save them all, Lord. 2 hours. Because I got a call, and I thought it was a scam call because I get a lot of those. And they were trying to call me and tell me they had Regina, but that was about 2 hours later. Still, my brother and Kalala had not been found. It was later on that night, about first dark, before we actually knew that they was deceased. God is too wise to make a mistake, even though we missed them very dearly, very dearly. And I just want to thank Ben Crump and his team for everything they have been doing to help us. God bless you.
God bless you, Miss Katrina. We continue to lift you up in prayer every day as we fight on this journey. Thank you, Regina. Thank you all for telling your reality. Now we will hear from Mr. Hall, who was a hero not of sorts. He was actually a hero that day. Go, Mr. Hall. Okay. Mr. Hall, why don't you tell your story about everything that happened that day?
I'd like to start this by saying that our family members of Sapelo Island, as the descendants of the enslaved of Thomas Spalding, send our sincere condolences, heartfelt regrets on what has happened in this tragedy on October 19th. It's changed all of our lives. My family members are still going to those same shores on a daily basis, seeing what happened on October 19th still to this morning. We know that we've been fighting for our survival on Sapelo Island. Mm-hmm. We mentioned this in 2009 as to the dangers of these docks and these gangways. Through our federal lawsuit in 2022, these docks were rebuilt, but were engineered, as Attorney Goodman said, improperly. Mm-hmm. The compliance levels were out of sorts, out of whack. And we as family members have been looking at this tragedy for the 3 years of these new docks on a constant basis. Our only heartfelt remorse for the persons who were victims of this tragedy and to their families, we are devastated. You have to understand that on this day we had 700 plus people on this island. Of these 700 plus people, they were in our chain of command as the descendants of the enslaved of this island. 236 years is our culture on this island. All of a sudden, we have now lost these elders as ancestors today. Yes, sir. And I do want to speak on one of the outcomes of this tragedy. Mm-hmm. Mr. William Johnson Jr. was 73 years old, the youngest of the victims. His family has since come back to the island, and with their help of Dr. Tanisha Talley, has decided to create what's known as a resilience hub.
Amen.
This is an emergency management response system that says not only can this never happen again, but more protections are put in place for our visitors of this island, of our people, so that our chain of command has no possibility of this happening to anyone visiting us. Yeah. We love these people that we've lost. Yes, we knew these people that we lost. A good deal of them our family members knew from Jacksonville, Florida. So we wouldn't want you to think that just people we're talking about in the open. We're talking about people that we care about and will respect in their honor until the collapse of Sapelo Island itself centuries from now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. The last speaker we're going to hear from is Mr. Nathaniel Hicks, whose mother also suffered terrible injuries. We represent 30 people besides the 4 who died, and those victims who all went in the water, many of them suffered serious lifelong injuries like broken hips, broken ankles, and remember, these were elderly citizens.
Again, my name is Nathaniel Hicks Jr. I am the son of Joanne Ross. She was one of the victims this horrific day. I'd like to first just start out by saying, giving my condolences on behalf of my mother and myself for those families that lost their loved ones. You are always in our prayers. I'm thankful that we had an outcome where my mother is still here.
Amen.
But her testimony was that she was standing on that gangway, standing on that platform. She was standing on that platform, and she had no expectation of danger. When all of a sudden she heard a crack, and the next thing you know, she was under the water. My mother cannot swim, but she is a God-fearing woman, and her prayer was in the middle of the ocean was, God save me. And somehow she was being, and I don't know if there was a video of those people that were in the water and how fast they were moving outward, that the current was very strong. And so she was being swept outward, but somehow she started being swept more closer toward the land. There was another young lady who we call an angel. Her name is Erica Blocker LeCount. She also went down in the water, but when she got out, she's a younger lady. She made it her business to focus on my mother. And so she went back. She braved the sides of the water, and she was able to reach out and grab my mother and pull her in. My mother sustained an injury to her ankle where it was snapped in half. She's now walking, and we thank God for that. And I should probably more clearly say she's hobbling, but we are thankful for whatever God allows. Amen. And so that day was horrific. Again, there was no expectation of danger when any of them stepped on that platform, and this has to be addressed. And we thank Mr. Crump. Thank you and your team for being here to help us out. And so we thank you, and blessings to all of you.
Thank you, Mr.
Yes,
Hicks. We continue to pray for your mother
Thank you.
and everybody who suffered that day. So we will try to take some of your questions now, if you have any. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for being here. Just technical question on the lawsuit. Why was it filed in Gwinnett County? And then also wanted to know how come you're not suing the Georgia Department of Natural Resources, which operates the dock?
Well, I'll let Jeff go first, and then I say a word.
So the lawsuit was brought in Gwinnett County. That is where Centennial Construction, the general contractor of the project, is based. Centennial is right in the middle of what went wrong in this tragedy. As the general contractor, they made a promise to the state of Georgia when they took on this job that they would do it safely, that they would do it within standards, and they broke that promise. So Centennial Construction, who is in Gwinnett County, is very much at the center of this case. It's one of the reasons the case is in Gwinnett County. As far as the state of Georgia, as Attorney Crump mentioned, we are early in the process. Filing a complaint is an important step in the process, but it is by no means the only step in the process. Our investigation continues, and as we continue, if there are other parties that need to be added, they will be added. But as of now, the lawsuit filed is against the dock fabricator, the engineer, the architect, and the general contractor.
Yeah. And just to answer your question plainly, our experts reconstructed the tragedy, and these are the people who we have determined are the most responsible for this fatal disaster. That's why we sued these individuals.
Mr. Goodman, Mr. Crump, how many victims do y'all represent in total in this lawsuit?
We represent 30 our firms, 4 of them deceased.
And then,
And several of them are still in rehabilitation because they had broken hips and so forth. So it's an ongoing struggle.
so combined over 30 people?
Yes.
And then, does this raise questions about other gangways in Georgia?
It absolutely does. Crescent, the dock manufacturer, this is not the only gangway that they had issues with. The engineers that so flagrantly dropped the ball here, this is not the only project that they are engineers for. Stevens and Wilkinson, the architect, who also had a responsibility to make sure that the calculations were done, that they were done right. This is a large multinational firm, and when they can drop the ball so flagrantly on one project, it absolutely raises questions about every one of their projects.
Is there an amount on, I haven't seen the filing, is there an amount on this lawsuit?
There's not.
We know it's going to be multi-millions of dollars for the losses that were suffered. You heard Regina's testimony, Katrina's testimony. I mean, you have over 30 people who went in that water who all thought that was the end. I mean, just imagine for a moment if you were on a gangway getting onto a ferry, it collapsed, and you go into the water and you can't swim, and you say, oh God, is this how it's going to end? And what is that worth? And so that's why we know it's a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. Any other questions? If not, we'll give you the spellings of the names. Attorney Goodman.
Jeffrey Goodman, Jeffrey Goodman. I'm a partner at the law firm of Saltz, Mongoluzzi, Bendesky, SALTZ, MONGELUZZI, BENDESKY. That's why you didn't go through the whole firm.
Thank you. But they really are top notch in this area of law. Nobody better. Attorney Ben Crump Law, Attorney Liza Park, LIZAPARK, also, Regina, if you and your mother were.
Regina Brinson, REGINA
Katrina Alexander. Katrina spelled KATRENA ALEXANDER.
Mr. Hall.
That's Reginald, REGINALD, Hall, HALL.
Okay. And Mr. Hicks.
Nathaniel Hicks Jr., NATHANIEL, Hicks, HICKS, Jr., JR, period.
And if you want a copy of the lawsuit, reach out to press@bencrump.com and we'll get it for you. If you have any other questions in the future for Attorney Goodman or Attorney Park, myself, just reach out to press@bencrump.com, and we want to keep you updated. We don't want this to be forgotten about. Thank you all.
Thank you.